Hello, students. I bet you've never seen this game before. Maybe you've heard of the players. This is 1934, Samuel Reshevsky with the white pieces, and Arnold Danker with the black pieces. Let's see what we can learn from this game. Now, it starts with a gambit that I don't love, which is the Budapest Gambit, allowing your opponent to take a free pawn with tempo. And I haven't studied it extensively. However, I think it's still a good lesson whenever you are playing a game, whether it's a blitz game or rapid or even classical, and you're running into a gambit that you're not familiar with. Take these few key points. First off, being you do not want to sacrifice your king safety or the scope of your pieces to hold on to the gambited piece. That's the whole plan when someone gambits is they actually want to rapidly develop, get you in a bind and a tangle because you're trying so hard to hold on to the piece. For example, moves like f4, to protect the pawn now that the knight is attacking it, but we sacrifice our king safety. Moves like bishop to f4, defending the pawn. Yes, you're developing a piece, but now your bishop is looking at a brick wall. Moves like, queen to d4, heaven forbid, getting your queen out too early, even though it does have some pressure on the knight. After, d6, bishop protecting it. Knight is going to come to c6 for free with tempo. You get the idea. So white just goes for a simple e4. A bit of tempo attacking the knight, grabbing some squares in the center, and black can just recapture. However, they're going to go for d6. All right, your opponent is offering to get rid of your doubled pawns, which is not bad, right? It's not bad to take here, but we have to consider what is black going to do. Well, they are going to be able to get their bishop out, and they're actually going to beat you at castling. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely something to consider and now understand why white went with the tempo move, development move, getting them closer to castling with a bishop e2, putting pressure on the knight, and black cashes out the chips with knight to e5. Okay. Now, white here has plenty of moves, developing the bishop, either knight, probably the g1 knight to get closer to castling. However, goes for f4. Tempo bringing move, a bit of a weakening move as well. And black has a very cute response. Knight back to g4. We got the battery, that's 2. There's only one defender. Oops, excuse me, one defender. Remember what I talked about with that moving that f pawn, weakening the king. Of course, if you were to take, black is not going to recapture. What are they going to do? Probably already guessed. Yeah, it's knight to h4, check first. And they will pick up the bishop. And white is going to allow black to get a little bit of room on the driver's side. So, anyways, instead, white is going to try to alleviate this issue twofold with knight to f3, not only protecting h4, but preparing for castling. All right, all black has to do now to stay in the game is bishop e7. They might even have time for g6, bishop g7, fianchettoing the bishop. However, goes knight to c6. And this is kind of the beginning of where there's going to be some small, slight inaccuracies. And because they're pushing off or delaying their castling, white is going to have a target for punishment. If you're going to take anything from this video and implement it into your games, you have to understand that inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders are going to happen in your games, both you and your opponent, What matters is how they are punished. You have to look at games from history through your own games, understand, download that pattern recognition. So when you see it in other games, you recognize it. Oh, this is bad king safety. This is a bad pawn structure. And then you have to punish it. And white is going to punish the fact that black doesn't seem to be in any rush for castling. So they start with castling. And again, black has the opportunity to get that bishop out and castle. Bishop d7. Okay. White says, all right, knight to c3, continuing development. Bishop e7. Black says, okay, finally, I'm going to castle it next move. Everything's going to be fine. White says, not so fast. Starting with h3. Of course, black doesn't want to castle. Knight goes back to f6. And white saw this combination of punishing this knight because of where it was, how many moves it spent. And now after e5, takes. Can you guess where the best square to move that knight to is? Yeah. So spent all that time coming out to g4, back to e5, back to g4, back to f6, back to g8. Not a great way to spend your time. What a journey. All right. So the knight goes back, and white doesn't have any extreme moves here, so instead says, all right, well, you know what? I have to finish my development. Bishop to e3, and black begs with the move f6, hoping, takes, knight takes back, we can castle. But remember what I said about moving that f-pawn. There are going to be some light squared weaknesses, some king safety disadvantages. Of course, white's not going to take here. No, they just prepare for the attack. They see the inadequacy in the position, so they aim the gun, bishop to d3, towards the king's side. Black takes and says, okay, I'm going to get my knight to f6. Well, let's see how well that works out. Knight to g5. Now, this is a cute move. This is essentially the reverse of what we saw earlier. Very funny, even though it is being defended once and attacked twice. If black were to take, what's the in-between move? This is a mirror copy of what happened earlier. Queen h5 check. It's going to be very, very interesting. So instead, black says, well, I'm going to get closer to castling. I'm going to stop the queen from coming to h5. So knight f6. There's a problem, though. White has cracked open the F file and now has the perfect opportunity to put the nail in the coffin and punish their opponent for waiting so long to complete development and castle. This is the ultimate move to find. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to calculate, but I'm going to go ahead and show it. Of course, it is rook takes f6. Yeah. Taking away the protection of the h5 square. So after bishop takes back, of course, queen check. Black desperately attempts with g6. But I'm sure maybe you already looked at this. If you need some extra time, go ahead, but I'll show it. Bishop g6. Sacrificed the rook on f6. Sacrificed the bishop on g6. Because, of course, after pawn takes, don't get too crazy here. That's not a hanging rook. Sorry. Bishop's protecting it. We take the pawn. And, of course, if king goes to f8, we have the checkmate here. So instead, king goes to e7. Finish the game. Of course, it is bishop c5. So what can we take from this little miniature here? 20 move game. Again, Really be in the mindset of punishment. Of course, we want to set up ourselves for success, but those 3 tenets that I've always talked about in my videos and to my students, which is the scope of the pieces, king safety, and pawn structure. You want to strive to make sure that's strong on your side. But if you see your opponent, if you see opportunities to make any of those 3 things weak, you have to make them weak and then you have to punish it. If the king is weak, you have to bring in the pieces for the attack. If the scope is weak, you have to make sure that your pieces are looking amazing. If the pawn structure is weak in the end game, you have to punish so that you get the passed pawns. You create the isolated pawns for your opponent. Punishment is key. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.